Hey everybody, this is Ryan E. Louie, and this is the Digg series. Well, here we are, everybody. We've made it to episode 10, and this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing these episodes. I hope you folks continue to listen to them. I know I get some nice support from my students, from my friends, my colleagues, my peers that listen to them. Thank you for your comments and your advice as I go through these podcasts. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do my shout out. My shout out is actually going to go to my students at Studio Louie, the ones that come to my studio. And so the way I thought about doing it was that I'm going to take like a Monday. Who are my Monday students that show up to Studio Louie? And I'm just going to go do first names. And I'm going to just kind of do it in order. And then each week that goes by, and maybe I'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But this is Monday lessons. Monday lessons are Jenna, Ryan, Aiden, Brendan, Josh, Dylan, Noah, Elizabeth, Gia, Nathan, and then Nathan, Olivia. Thank you so much for being members of Studio Louie. I hope you are still enjoying lessons as I do enjoy teaching them. You folks are awesome. Anyway, I was talking to my staff, that's what I'll call it, my staff that helps me with these podcasts. Actually, it's just all of you. I think I was AI Root, and I was asking the kids, what should I do the next podcast on? We had kind of first talked about teaching middle school kids. That was I just listed all the categories on what subjects these podcasts were going to be on. And so they said, teaching middle school kids. And so what I thought about today, this episode number 10, how about it just be teaching in general? And that will include grades who I teach 5th grade all the way up through high school, then even into college. I'm just going to share some of my teaching experiences and why I actually enjoy what I get to do every day. So this is teaching. Let's get started. When I started playing drums, I started playing when I was like 4 years old. What does that mean, when you start playing drums at 4 years old? Well, does that mean that, it means that I pulled out the pots and pans and I had wooden spoons and I played. And is that being a drummer? Of course, Matter of fact, there are pieces that are really composed for pots and pans. And anyway, and then as I, grew to love to play drums and become a percussionist, that was all part of it. When did I think that I was going to become a teacher? I actually never thought that I was going to become a teacher because I always just loved playing. So I always wanted to be a performer that teaches. But I do remember, by the time I had made that decision that I was going to be a professional, when it was going to be, to try and make a living doing this, probably I was a senior in high school, and up until then, I wanted to do a bunch of things. But ultimately, I just remember I was studying with Doug Wolf at the University of Utah by the time I was a senior in high school. So your future's kind of being plotted out, and you're being groomed a certain way to think about being a music major. And so I remember really thinking that the percussion professor up there was so cool, and he is a wonderful man and a wonderful human being and an incredible musician and an incredible percussionist, drummer, all those things. As I was in high school, to get to the band room, I'd have to walk, through the courtyard. And I thought, it'd be really great to be able to make a living and being a teacher, whether that means I was teaching at middle schools, high schools, but really at first I really wanted to teach at a college or a university, and we'll get into that later in the episode here. But anyway, I just remember walking through the courtyard thinking, gosh, it is really cool. The courtyard, to me, I would kind of pretend that it was like a college campus and what it would be like to be in charge of or to teach at a university and to be part of that college program. Teaching has always been part of something that I like to do. I was actually teaching lessons in high school when I was a senior. But let's start talking about my teaching experiences from 5 through 12 and beyond. I was at the University of Utah doing my undergrad, and I started out as a performance major. And then I crossed over to music education. I went through all the pedagogy classes. I went through the music education department. All I really had to do was student teach, take some more, education classes. And then I would be able to student teach. I was kind of still caught in between. Do I want to become a timpanist? Do I want to be a teacher? And that's a whole nother story. But when I decided to really just become a timpanist, become a drum set player, become a professional player, I then went back and, studying performance and studying music education. I learned a lot, though, in my pedagogy classes and my music education classes. And I remember talking to my jazz professor, and he said, looks like you're having some problems making decisions whether or not you want to be a performance major or education, you finish your education. And he asked me, do you like to teach? And I said, yes, I do. I do like to teach. He said, well, just so you know, if you're a great player, you'll always teach because people will want to know why, and they'll always sign up for lessons. Or you'll be able to teach in the schools like you're doing now. And so I always took that to heart. And today, Studio Louie is sitting at we're at 47 half-hour time slots a week, which is awesome. So if I could get 50 half-hour time slots a week, that would be awesome. And I teach at three different school districts. That's, of course, Medina City Schools, Wadra City Schools, and I teach a class out at Strongsville. Anyway, let's get into some of my teaching experiences. Now you kind of know the background and the history of why I do enjoy teaching, why I think it's fun, why I certainly make a living off of it. We were talking about, my friends and I, PANA, percussion, the group. We were one night we were talking, and as we do a lot, what kind of percussionist out there today does not have to teach, that only performs, in classical percussion? We can only think of one. Her name's Evelyn Glennie, this incredible percussionist. She is just a legend, and we can talk about that at another time. And so anyway, I start students in fifth grade in Wadra City School Districts. That's when we start our percussionists. And then sixth grade in Medina. And some of my funnest teaching experiences, and why I love doing it so much, is that when I get to start a student playing, and we in the school systems, we start everybody playing the bells or the glockenspiel, right? So when you sign up, you get your bell kit, and they have like a practice pad in there and drumsticks, or they have a snare drum in there and drumsticks and mallets. And we get to start learning how to play percussion. And we talk about our technique that we use, and a lot of wrist, a little bit of finger. Make sure that both feet are on the ground, they're shoulder width apart. The bells are set at the right height, and we kind of crank through like the whole first part of the year just playing bells. And then, we cross over to playing drums. And then after that, it is just all about technique. And, to be honest, it's, we cover bells for maybe half of the school year. And then from there on out, it's just practice pad or snare drums. And, being a drummer is such an important thing. Being a mallet player is an incredible thing. But we got to have good drum hands. One of my closest friends, actually my best friend, when he had always mentioned to me, you need great drummers in a band. You need great mallet players, you need great musicians in a band, but you need great drummers. So that's why a lot of my technique is built around snare drum and the practice pad, because ultimately you can transfer that technique into so many different areas. And so we start them off playing bells, we cross them over playing drums. And one of the things I never thought, and then we cross them into prepping them for marching band, into drumline. And then, I have a lot of drum set students that just want to study drum set. Or to be honest, I have so many students, which I think is kind of lopsided, which is really, really cool, that, the studio being so vast of musical instruments. It is an absolute blessing that I have a building like that, to where it's a cool hang, it's a great energy, right? That we're talking about Studio Louie. And anyway, it has timpani vibes, marimbas, classical percussion instruments, and a couple of drum sets that are really great instruments to play. And it's the same stuff that I tour and record with. And so coming to Studio Louie, you know that you're going to play on some incredible gear. And I'm so just scatterbrained on this. But as we get into high school, the nice thing about that is that, you do have the opportunity for playing marching band. So going through middle school, we're teaching you all, like, for what I call is the foundational tools of playing percussion. And that's where you kind of get your feet wet, as you know. And so by the time you get to high school, though, you get to make a choice to, do marching band, and then it's what you want to play. Do you want to be part of the battery or the drum line, which those instruments are like snare drum, tenors, which are the quins, bass drum, basses, and then cymbals. Or if you want to be in the front ensemble, those are mallet players, and that has marimbas and vibes and timpani, synthesizer, and then obviously auxiliary percussion. That's all part of that front ensemble experience. It's an interesting thing that I have. We have marimba players that want to play marimba. We have, people are going out and trying to make tenors, trying to make snare drum, and learning the technique, or bass, and even cymbals, learning all the technique to play those things. I've taught drumline I think I started when I was 21 or 20, when I was doing my undergrad in Utah. I started to go out and teach drumline. And I find teaching drumline just an absolute blast. And we have countless stories about, and all of you folks know, it's just, I'll tell you one that is always just a blast for me. And we could talk about, playing different rudiments and drum corps and this and all the things. But one of the experiences I love is that, and this has everything to do with marching band, but sometimes very little to do with actually the actual playing of it. But when we go out and do drill, and that means drill is like the coordinates of marching, where we go and the formations we make and the way we go about doing it. There's a lot of how do I put it, dead time where the head band director, the band director's up top on the podium, or on the stand in the skyjack, and they're checking each section, that they're in the right coordinates, and that takes a lot of time sometimes. And when you're outside and it's beautiful weather, but the best days for me are like these semi-poofy, cloudy days, and where honestly, drumline, all of us front, we'll just sit there, look up in the sky, and look at the clouds, and we'll try and figure out what kind of shapes they are. And that is part of drumline for me. It's part of teaching. I love those poofy, cloudy days. Not like it needs to be overcast, cloudy, but just that it's sunny, but there are clouds up there, and they're poofy ones. And whether they're cumulus nimbus or nimbus, you're just looking up at them, and they're just trying to imagine what kind of shapes they are. And I know that sounds so esoterical, but needless to say, I think that is a blast. The value I get out of teaching and, being able to start them in fifth grade, to see them through seniors, and is that we have a unified technique that we use, that we start them with and that we end them with. And the cool thing is that if you apply yourself to these techniques, it can take you, as we've placed, out of our school districts, and they're studied privately with me, into some of the greatest music conservatories in the world. We've sent students to the Cleveland Institute of Music. but we sent him to New England Conservatory. We've gotten him into the Manhattan School of Music, DePaul University, Ohio State, Bowling Green. Gosh, the list goes on from Akron to Toledo to, I'm just, trying to talk about them just right off the cuff. Cleveland State, the University of Utah, Purdue University, University of Indiana, Carnegie Mellon, all these different institutions, and they're all incredible. Youngstown State, gosh, I could just keep naming them for a while. So for those who want to move on and have a future playing music, maybe as a profession, which is an incredible thing to be able to do, whether it be teaching like this or whether it be actually just performing, it is an incredible opportunity. And so I've been really, really lucky to start them and to end them and to keep on having them come back to the studio, which is always a blessing and always a joy. And that's a really, really cool thing. Another experience is that, like my mom will call in class, and I shouldn't be talking about this, but but my mom's like, she just turned 86, and I, usually when she calls though, I usually call my mom because she lives back in Salt Lake City, Utah, or she's back in Hawaii, Laia on Oahu, so it's one of those two places. Whenever she calls though, and I'm teaching, I will certainly turn on the phone and I will go, hey, everybody say hi to my mom. And all my students will say, hey, mom, all this stuff. She's like, oh, you're teaching. Okay, go. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Then I hang up. It's always cute though. And I just find that when you have 5th and 6th graders, the attitudes are always a blast. And, as they start to grow up through middle school and then into high school, to be able to teach drumline and front ensemble and marching band is great. To prepare them for playing drum set in jazz band is a really, really fun thing. It was this last jazz concert at Medina, which just like last week. And it felt really nice to watch all the drummers that were playing. And the really cool thing is they all take lessons. And they all take lessons at Studio Louie, which is really, really cool. I never thought the studio would get as big as it is. And I hope to continue to get it even bigger and larger and add more gear. That's what I need, is more gear, right? Well, maybe I'll take a little hiatus on buying gear because I love the gear that's in there right now. But it is to be able to reach as many students as I have over these 30 years of teaching. I started teaching actually when I was in high school, but so a lot of years of teaching. I never thought it would be to this scale, and it is just a true blessing. And I really enjoy it, obviously. And I'm glad that I'm able to be here and to be able to do it. Remember, I always wanted to be a performer that teaches, not a teacher that performs. I think being a performance part of your playing makes such a big thing. And but again, I think that today I am an educator, I'm a mentor, I'm a teacher that is able to be lucky enough to teach for 3 different school districts and go out and do clinics across the United States. And that's at different universities and at different high schools. I am very lucky to be able to travel, to be able to do that. And so with that being said, that is today's podcast. That's episode 10. And that is some of my teaching experiences. I have so many more that are a lot of fun. So hit me up on those, and I can certainly share some more with you. Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 10. Next episode, I think on docket, I'm interviewing Miss Megan Snide. She is the assistant band director at Medina High School and also the band director at Claggett Middle School. Her story is really, really cool. as she marched on the Ohio State drum line, and obviously got her music education degree from Ohio State. Anyway, I look forward for the next podcast, and thank you everybody for listening. You can always find these on my website, which is RyanLou, RYUNLOU.com, and also my YouTube channel, which is Ryan, RYUN, Louie, LOUIE. Please comment on any of those, the sites, and I look forward to the next one. Thanks, everybody. Truth.